The family blame Olympics gold medal, me. You know how every family has that one person who gets blamed for everything. Yeah, that's me. The human lightning rod, the emotional scapegoat. The living, breathing it's your fault magnet. Apparently, if my mom's WhatsApp stops working, it's my negative energy. If the biryani burns, clearly I prepped in the kitchen wrong. And when the electricity goes out, despite the national grid collapsing, well, obviously it's because I left the lights on in 2007. I don't live with a family. I live in a blame-happy cult. And I'm the unwilling deity they sacrifice piece to. Let me set the scene. A small, chaotic house filled with big opinions and even bigger egos. Conversations are less about talking and more about assigning guilt. There's a rota for blame, and surprise, surprise, I'm always first shift. I swear, if I tripped and fell, someone would yell, "See? She's doing it again." Always bringing drama. Like what? I'm bleeding, Shazia. Not auditioning for EastEnders. My uncle once said I had a negative aura. This from a man who hasn't paid child support in 13 years and thinks therapy is just something white people made up to avoid weddings. But sure, I ruin everything. There's a kind of twisted athleticism to it. Really, like the whole family is competing in the blame Olympics. And me, I've got gold in every category. Synchronized fault finding, emotional gaslighting, freestyle accusations. It's incredible, really, how I could be so powerful and so useless at the same time. Apparently, I ruin birthdays, disrupt the vibe, disrespect traditions, and single-handedly tank our ancestral karma, all before breakfast. Sometimes I wonder, do they actually believe this? Or do they just enjoy watching me emotionally faceplant every time I try to exist? Anyway, welcome to my family, where love is conditional, criticism is a love language, and my entire personality is a glitch in the family system. And the worst part, for a while, I believed them, but we'll get to that. The blame hits peak absurdity. You know when things go so far off the rails that they loop back round and somehow make less sense than when they started. Yeah, welcome to that moment. Apparently, and do brace yourself for this. I am now responsible for the Wi-Fi going out, the storm that canceled Uncle Gary's BBQ, and Aunt Pauline's irritable bloody bowel.com. No, really. That was the official diagnosis. Me, according to my mother. My bad attitude is now interfering with atmospheric pressure. Apparently. When I rolled my eyes during a Sunday roast, I summoned rain across 3 postcodes. Who knew I was a weather witch? And don't even get me started on the Wi-Fi. Let me set the scene. Saturday night. The whole family's gathered like we're reenacting a low-budget EastEnders crossover episode. My cousin's trying to stream Love Island. The Wi-Fi cuts out. And suddenly every head turns to me like I've physically chewed through the router. My crime? You've been moody all day, haven't you? That sort of energy disrupts signals. Right, of course. I forgot I'm not a person. I'm a walking for G dead zone. And then the piece de resistance, Aunt Pauline, clutching her stomach like she's in the final act of a Shakespeare tragedy, announces, greater than ever since she came back from uni. I've had bloating. Like I snuck into her flat and force-fed her cheese. I half expected someone to blame me for the fall of the British Empire next. It's just, ever since you started doing yoga and eating oat milk, things haven't felt right. Honestly, I could probably set the house on fire, and they'd still moan about me making it too smoky for the Victoria sponge. This was the moment it all clicked. The moment I realized my entire existence in this family is a cosmic punchline. I am the default scapegoat, the emotional sponge, the person who must be at fault because they ran out of other people to point at. So I did what any emotionally fried British woman in her 20s would do. I smiled politely, said nothing, and went upstairs to scream into a pillow with floral embroidery. That says family is forever. Irony is truly undefeated. Asterisk a young British woman in her late 20s, sitting alone at a nearly empty bus stop at dusk, wrapped in a slightly oversized trench coat, hair windswept and messy in the most unintentional way. She's holding a canvas tote bag on her lap, clearly overstuffed. The zip slightly open to reveal crumpled clothes and a book with a torn spine. Her expression is blank but broken. The kind of quiet devastation that says I didn't cry, but I could have. One earbud dangles from her hoodie, while the other is in, connected to a phone at 7% battery showing a sad indie playlist. The bus stop has a broken plastic bench, peeling paint, and an old poster advertising digestive biscuits half torn in the background. There's soft rain falling, casting a light sheen on the pavement in the background. Blurred out, the glow of a chippy across the street and a distant row of council houses. The lighting is moody, overcast gray-blue tones, with just a hint of orange from a street lamp. A fox darts across the road in the distance, adding a bit of unexpected British chaos. Her eyes don't meet the camera. She's staring off into the middle distance, headphones in, emotionally checked out but narrating anyway. The whole image should scream. This isn't a breakdown. This is a slow-burning emotional exile with excellent lighting. Indie film energy meets British sarcasm and resignation. Asterisk. The glorious first week of peace and existential dread. The first week, the glorious golden. Absolutely eerie calm after the storm. No yelling, no blaming. No one blaming me for overboiling the kettle or spiritually infecting the family Wi-Fi. Just silence, real silence, like I can hear the radiator breathe kind of silence. For the first few days, I was practically giddy. I danced around my tiny flat like I was in a cleaning montage set too. Lily Allen ate crisps for breakfast, had tea in absolute, uninterrupted solitude. Watched a whole episode of Gogglebox without anyone asking if I was sulking. It felt illegal, peaceful, but criminal, like I was squatting in someone else's happiness. I even started sleeping diagonally on the bed, because apparently freedom means rediscovering how selfish your limbs can be. But by day 4, the cracks began to show. I woke up, looked around at my new life of unmatched socks and unbothered silence, and thought, what now? Like, okay, no one's blaming me for their emotional constipation, but also, no one's saying anything. The quiet became a bit too loud. Alike. Did that cupboard door just judge me? Loud, I started talking to the kettle. Not even joking. Shall we do another cuppa, babe? It didn't respond. Rude. And I realized I've spent so long being the emotional shock absorber of the family that now, without the constant blame and chaos, I don't know who I am. Like, who am I if I'm not the problem? I tried journaling, got halfway through the sentence. I deserve peace before I crossed it out and wrote, maybe I was the drama after all. Don't get me wrong, I love the calm. I just didn't know it would come with an identity crisis and a haunting sense that I left a haunted house but brought one of the ghosts with me. So yeah, the first week, quiet, glorious, existentially terrifying. But I still slept better than I ever did under that passive-aggressive roof. So, small wins. Inner monologue breakdown. Am I the drama? There comes a point, usually around to 17 a.m. on a Wednesday, when your brain decides to throw a spontaneous, uninvited TED Talk titled, Was It Me All Along? Cue the inner monologue, greater than maybe I am the problem. Maybe I was a bit defensive. Maybe I shouldn't have thrown passive-aggressive. Hope you find peace in the family. WhatsApp before ghosting. Or maybe, and hear me out, they're just wildly allergic to accountability and emotionally constipated since the 80s. Hard to say, really. I sat on the floor in my Primark hoodie, yes. I know I said I wouldn't wear it again. But comfort wins in mental breakdowns. Holding a cup of Yorkshire tea like it held the answers to my childhood trauma. Spoiler, it did not. My brain, of course, decided this was the perfect time to replay. Every single family argument in Dolby surround sound. Unskippable, uneditable, and narrated by my self-esteem at its lowest setting. Remember when Mom said you infect the room with negativity just by walking in? Maybe she was right. Or maybe she's just dramatic and needed to open a window. I debated texting someone, anyone, but the only person I wanted to talk to was probably still blaming me for her missing Pyrex lid. And then came the worst part. The British guilt spiral. You know the one, greater than am I ungrateful? Do I expect too much? Was that third sarcastic comment during Sunday roast too much? It was. But it was also funny. I even Googled how to know if you're the toxic one, which, ironically, is exactly what a non-toxic person would do, right? Look, I know I'm not perfect. I've got the emotional range of a microwave, meal and trust issues that could fill a Tesco extra. But I also know this. I spent years tiptoeing around egos wrapped in childhood, trauma and adult-sized denial. So maybe I'm not the drama. Maybe I'm just the first person to call out the plot twist. And if that makes me the villain, fine, I'll be the villain. But I'm doing it in fluffy socks, drinking lukewarm tea, and keeping receipts, emotional and otherwise. The unexpected perks of being cut off, solitude. And family members force upon you when they collectively decide you're the devil in Topshop jeans. Turns out, being excommunicated from the family WhatsApp group has its perks. For starters, no one has asked me to fix their bloody printer in weeks. That's peace. That's serenity. That's inkless liberation. I can now enjoy meals for one without the judgmental side-eye from Aunt Shazia, who once said eating alone was one step above sadness, 2 steps below divorce. Well, joke's on her. I'm eating solo and emotionally stable-ish. And I didn't have to explain why the biryani isn't spicy enough to summon ancestors. I've also stopped hearing the phrase, greater than you know what your problem is. Which is great, because frankly I'd forgotten I had so many. And then there's the silence. Oh, the silence. It's suspicious at first, like you've been left alone in a horror film. But then it settles, becomes cozy. Like background jazz or those lo-fi YouTube playlists with sad girls in hoodies studying and never blinking. No more shouting matches over whose trauma is louder. No more passive-aggressive just checking in. Texts with emotional bonds hidden under emojis. No one has passive-aggressively handed me a plate since last Tuesday. I even watched Bake Off without anyone arguing over Paul. Hollywood's handshake policies. I said what I said. It's weirdly intimate for national television. Also, my Wi-Fi. Flawless, because no one's facetiming me with potato quality. Video to cry about how they're the victim, while somehow also blaming me for the fall of the Roman Empire. And that time someone reversed into a trolley at Asta. And the emotional clutter. Surprisingly light when you're not carrying everyone else's feelings in a poorly packed suitcase of guilt and obligation, of course. Sometimes I wonder if they'll reach out, apologize, maybe say, we were wrong. But then I remember it took them 6 years to admit I didn't break the microwave. So yeah, not holding my breath. In the meantime, I'm here, being gloriously unbothered, slightly petty, and absolutely thriving in my new role as the family ghost. Cheers to never fixing the bloody printer again. Ever. The thing poets romanticize, therapists recommend. Passive-aggressive outreach, aka breadcrumbs from the void. It starts innocently enough, quiet, subtle, like emotional. Warfare dressed in M&S knitwear. Mom liked my Instagram story. A photo of my lukewarm chai and a sarcastic caption about loneliness being cheaper than therapy, harmless, right? But then I saw it, that little heart, that digital breadcrumb. A red flag in the shape of a tiny tap, greater than is it a peace offering, a threat, a silent declaration of war wrapped in emojis and passive regret. Hard to say, because this is how they operate. Not with apologies, who know? That would be far too straightforward for my lot. They prefer the dance, the long, slow, emotionally manipulative foxtrot of faux concern and weaponized silence. A like here, a cryptic comment on a Facebook memory there. Greater than those were the days. Were they? I seem to recall those days involved a lot of yelling and me being blamed for Dad's high blood pressure. Next, it's my cousin tagging me in a meme. Something painfully unfunny about being the black sheep of the family. No caption, no context, just vibes and emotional gaslighting. Comma then. Just when I think maybe I imagined it all, maybe they've moved on. Maybe I've hallucinated years of dysfunction. Mom strikes again. This time, a text, a single word greater than okay. Okay, what? Okay, you miss me? Okay, you're sorry. Okay, I was never the problem. And you've all had a group epiphany and will now be attending family therapy led by a no-nonsense Welsh woman named Gwen. Nope, just okay. Like a punctuation mark from the emotional underworld. An ancient summoning spell to lure me back into the fold. Without ever admitting wrongdoing. And the worst part, I almost replied, almost sent a chirpy hey, how are you? As if we hadn't gone full Cold War over Christmas dinner. And I wasn't publicly disowned over forgetting to stir the gravy clockwise. Apparently that's disrespectful to tradition. But I didn't reply. Because I know how this goes. One message turns into a phone call. The phone call becomes a guilt trip. The guilt trip becomes, we never said it was your fault. But also you should apologize just to keep the peace. And suddenly, I'm back at square one, emotionally. Bankrupt and tech support for their dodgy Amazon Fire Stick. So I screenshot the message. Send it to my therapist with the caption, greater than emotional breadcrumb spotted. No contact remains intact. And then I made myself a proper cup of tea. Yorkshire, extra strong. 2 sugars. Because some family traditions are worth keeping. Flashbacks that hit like a brick and a therapy bill. There I was, minding my business, sat Ina, Pret sipping on an overpriced oat flat white scrolling through memes and pretending I wasn't emotionally unraveling in public. When bam, it hit me, a memory. The kind that doesn't politely knock on the door of your consciousness. No, this one drop-kicked it in like it owed money. I remember the time they blamed me for Dad's flat tire. Now minor detail, I was in Manchester. Dad and the flat tire in Croydon. Roughly 200 miles away. Give or take a traumatic childhood. Apparently I'd brought bad luck into the house by forgetting to call him back. Which for the record was because I was crying in a library toilet after my university group project crashed and burned, mostly because I'd done all the work and one lad thought moral support counted as contribution. But sure, obviously it was my karmic energy that caused the Michelin tragedy of 2018. Your dad was very stressed, you know. You could have checked in. I did, several times. The only thing I got back was a thumbs up emoji and a forwarded WhatsApp prayer chain. But back to the Pret flashback. I'm there trying not to sob into a croissant, while some bloke to tables down explains Bitcoin to a woman who clearly regrets saying yes to this date. And all I can think is, how did I survive that house without developing full-blown villain origin story energy? Then another memory, like an unsolicited sequel. Mom screaming about the broken microwave. Which again, fun fact, I didn't break. I wasn't even home. I'd been at a friend's birthday weekend in Brighton regretting shots and bad life choices. But apparently by simply existing within the same DNA pool, I'd psychically short-circuited the fuse box from a different city. Things didn't used to go wrong before you started acting out. By acting out she meant wearing eyeliner and not liking chicken korma. But the greatest hit of all, the Christmas incident. Now this one deserves its own miniseries. Possibly starring Olivia Colman as my mom and a very confused intern as me. It was Christmas Eve. I asked if we could not shout this year. Maybe listen to a bit of Michael Bublé and not emotionally waterboard each other. 5 minutes later, I was accused of ruining the family spirit because I didn't want to play charades with Uncle Ray, who, by the way, once told me therapy was a Western disease. I'm not saying they gaslit me. I'm saying they handed me the lighter, the matches, and then blamed me for the smoke. You're too sensitive. You always twist everything. Why can't you just be normal? Flashbacks like that hit hard. Not in a poetic film score playing kind of way, but in a yep. I'll be increasing my therapy budget this month kind of way. And the worst part, some tiny traitorous part of me still thinks, maybe they're right. Maybe I am the problem. But that voice gets quieter each time I remember. I'm not the one who yelled at a cousin for sneezing during prayer or accused Alexa of listening in on our business. So yeah, thanks for the memories, brain. Love that for us. Now if you'll excuse me, I have to go write all this down before I accidentally forgive someone who still thinks depression is a sign of laziness. Realizing you're better off, but also kinda broken. Freedom, they say, is a grand thing. Like finally getting to eat your chips without someone stealing the salt. Or like watching the footy without someone nagging you about proper manners. Well, freedom, in my case, tastes a bit more like stale cereal at 3 a.m. You know the kind, the soggy remnants of a day gone wrong. Sitting in the bottom of a bowl you forgot to wash. Blinking under the harsh glow of your kitchen light. It's liberating, sure, but also a bit sad. C. I left, quietly, no dramatic door slams or tearful speeches, just me, my suitcase, and a playlist. That's roughly 70% angry anthems and 30% sad ballads. And yes, I know that adds up to 100%. But trust me, it's an emotional cocktail. For the first few days, it was like winning the lottery. No guilt trips about whose turn it was to take the bins out. No passive-aggressive comments about my choice of music. Spoiler, it's always been bad. And no one accusing me of bringing bad vibes. Because I asked if we could maybe not shout during dinner. I made my own rules. I cooked whatever I wanted. Hello. Beans on toast with an extra splash of HP sauce. Watched entire series of the Great British Bake Off without sharing the remote. And drank tea in mismatched mugs. The absolute anarchy. But then, just when you think you're living your best life, reality sneaks in wearing its usual grim expression. Loneliness, not the romantic, wistful kind. The kind that slinks in at 9 p.m. when the streetlights flicker on and your phone remains stubbornly silent. The kind that makes you question if freedom means forgetting what family smells like, even if that smell was mostly burnt toast and emotional neglect. I caught myself reminiscing about the chaos, the shouting, the blame games, the endless guilt, as if it was some twisted version of home. Because it was something, and now, the silence feels like a vacuum that not even the cheesiest rom-com on Netflix can fill. I'm better off. Absolutely, no doubt, but also kinda broken, like a cup you dropped in the kitchen, glued back together with sarcasm and therapy sessions, but still holding water, just not quite like before. And so I navigate this odd new chapter, a little less afraid to be me, but still wrestling with the ghost of every "why can't you just be normal?" whispered under breath. I'm learning to laugh at the absurdity, at the fact that my freedom snack is often cold tea and existential dread. Because if life has taught me anything, it's this. Sometimes you have to break a few family myths to find your own damn peace, even if that peace comes with a side of stale cereal. The epilogue, no closure, just boundaries. So here we are, at the end. Not the Hollywood cue, the swelling orchestra and tears of redemption type of ending, mind you. No dramatic reunion where everyone hugs it out and sings. 3 lions at Wembley. No Oscars speech thanking Aunt Mildred for her passive-aggressive comments disguised as concern. Nope, just me choosing peace over performance. And isn't that the thing? Life doesn't hand you tidy bows and neat endings. It's more like a dodgy curry, a bit messy, slightly uncomfortable, but undeniably yours once you've survived it. I didn't walk back through that front door with a flourish or a declaration of newfound wisdom. I slipped in quietly, the way a cat does when it's fed up with the chaos but still wants a bit of warmth on the windowsill, because closure, it's overrated. What matters is boundaries. Drawing the line between what you'll endure and what you refuse to. Like refusing to answer texts at 3 a.m. demanding you fix the Wi-Fi again. Or declining invitations to family dinners that always end in a blame game about how you never do enough. Spoiler, I did enough. I did too much, actually. I chose to protect my peace instead of performing the tired, exhausting role of the family scapegoat. To hell with being the emotional punchbag everyone takes turns whacking. I'm done being the cast member in their never-ending soap opera, where plot twists involve who forgot to buy milk and who's really responsible for Aunt Joan's cold shoulder. Don't get me wrong. I still wrestle with that sneaky feeling that maybe I'm overreacting. That maybe if I smiled wider or cooked a proper Sunday roast, the drama would magically evaporate. But deep down, I know the truth. Some people will always prefer the performance over the person. So here I am, building my life with the mess I've got, gloriously imperfect, emotionally chaotic, but undeniably mine. I still laugh at the absurdity of it all. The way families operate like slightly dysfunctional football clubs, always needing a scapegoat for a lost match. The way love gets tangled with blame like tangled Christmas lights, frustrating, confusing, but somehow familiar. And that's enough. Because in a world that makes no sense, in a family that's a perfect storm of blame and blame shifting, I've finally found something worth holding onto. My own messy, beautiful, sarcastic piece. No grand finale. No bow, just me quietly reclaiming my story. One awkward, sarcastic, beautifully chaotic step at a time.